Hey, this is Chris with RunRepeat, and I'm here today with my review of the Hoka Torrent. The Hoka Torrent is actually the first trail shoe that I ever bought. Really helped with my transition to getting on the trails, and I've been hooked ever since. And a lot of that is due to the shoe. So what I really like about this is that it's very lightweight, it's responsive, but at the same time it's also pretty comfortable, taking you across some pretty tough terrain. So let's get into some of the details and talk a little bit more about the shoe. So let's start off and talk about the usage a little bit. So like I mentioned, this is a trail shoe, and due to the lugs on the bottom, this would not really work as a road shoe. They're a little bit too big, probably not end well, probably end up falling down. So definitely stick to the trails on these. But there's enough support, and like I mentioned, those lugs are big enough that you can do some pretty technical trails with these. So really a wide range of options when it comes to trails. The one thing that I will point out though is that there's no rock plate. So if you're running on super rocky terrain, maybe you want to consider a different shoe, but I would say for 95% of trails, this will be your go-to shoe. So a lot of good options here, got a lot of good variety when it comes to the trails. So let's move on to the upper, and this is one of the highlights of the shoe for me. The upper is very lightweight, it's very breathable, which is great on trails. If they get wet, they dry really fast and they keep your foot nice and cool. So definitely a lot of strengths there. At the same time, there's enough support with some of the overlays to keep your foot in place so it's not moving around unnecessarily. And there's also enough protection there that rocks or debris or anything like that are not going to get in and mess with your foot here in the shoe. So very good solid design up here with the upper. So moving on to the midsole. The midsole is built with Hoka's ProFly technology, which is really kind of makes the shoe what it is. So it keeps the shoe lightweight, but it gives its really good responsiveness, makes it a really fast shoe, but at the same time providing enough comfort and enough cushion that you're not feeling the impact of a lot of the rocks and things like that. So this is really kind of the core and the body of the Torrent, and a really good job here by Hoka, and really makes the shoe the fast shoe that it is. More positive things to say when we start talking about the outer here. So it's a rubber outer with the multi-directional lugs. And like I mentioned before, there's no rock plate in here, which you might want to see with the trail shoe to help cushion your foot a little bit against some of that rough terrain. But just the design of the outsole here, it's pretty sufficient where you don't really notice that, I would say, on a vast majority of trails. So a lot of protection here that's going to really help with your foot and the overall comfort of the shoe. And then the lugs, once again, well designed here. These do a good job of keeping that traction up, kind of clamping down as you run over some of that rocky terrain. Another great part of the shoe here, and this really helps open up a wide variety of trails that you can run on in the Torrent. And just a couple of things from my personal experience to add. So number one, the trails that I run on quite a bit can get pretty muddy. So whenever it rains, the water tends to sit around quite a bit. So you kind of have some rough running conditions quite often. And that was one of my favorite things about the Torrent, is as I was running through puddles of mud and just terrible conditions, they held up really well. The traction was great, didn't have any problems with slipping or falling. It just kind of tore right through them. So that was definitely something that I experienced, I think was a pretty good highlight. And the other thing too, as I mentioned, is this was my first real trail shoe, and it was just made it an easy transition going from road to the trails. So I would say this is a shoe that you could use if you're a beginner or all the way up to an expert. I think there's enough here that you can use this to build speed and get in some of those fast workouts, and I think even to do races as well. So this is a shoe that I think that it's great for all the different kinds of trails, but all the different kinds of trail runners as well. So just a great shoe, and can't say enough good things about it. So to wrap things up, I'd highly recommend this fast, responsive, supportive shoe. The one potential negative was about the rock plate, but like I said, that's not going to affect too many trail runners, so not really much of a negative. But that's all I got. Appreciate you watching. Be sure to check out my full written review on the website, or you can check out the RunRepeat channel for more content.